joining on the second session for decluttering. I will go ahead and turn over to you, Mike Becker, to kick us off and get us started.
Good morning. I'm Mike Becker. I am the chair of Always United, and I'm very, very pleased to present the second session of decluttering. We have in the first session, we covered an awful lot, and John just did who's with us today, just did a fabulous job of helping us with the idea of how do you get started with this. And I think the phrase was how do you eat an elephant or something like that. But it's such a big project. So we got started on hopefully really a lot of incentive on how to do this, and let's get started. Today's session, we're again partnering with the Senior Academy of uwci, and we're very, very happy to have that relationship with them. Today, we're going to focus a little bit now that we've decided to do all of this and we've decided to embark on decluttering. Is there a way to make a few dollars, and is there some value in some of our things? And if not, is there a way? What's some ideas and some best practices in terms of donating? And in the event that doesn't even work, what are some ways to perhaps just quite frankly just pitch it, pitch those items? So that's really what we're going to try to cover today. I am very pleased that we have with us Jack Christie, who is a master certified personal property appraiser. He owns Christie's of Indiana, which is a family-owned business. It's a licensed auction gallery, and he has over 47 years experience, and I've had the great pleasure of having a few conversations with him. So we'll get started. Jack, I think everybody on the call would like to feel that, boy, they could go through their house and sell a whole bunch of stuff, make a whole bunch of dollars, and but there is some reality to it. So the question that I might pose, how do you you probably want to level set us first of all, because maybe we're a little optimistic, but how do you determine what's valuable, and how do you start with this whole process to trying to monetize, if you can, the stuff that we're decluttering?
Well, good morning to everyone. Thank you for letting me be a part of this morning. I think the most important thing to begin with is to know what you have, and we can offer many different services. We are certified appraisers and been doing this for 47 years. I think it's important to know what is good and what's bad. And again, Mike had just alluded to what we need to sell, donate, and I'll kind of go through that. I would tell you the very first thing that I have, the obligation I have to all of my seniors and all of our clients for so many years, is to come up with a value of what things are worth. And I'm going to give you some groups of items as we travel through this here today that have lost value, and some of them have increased in value. But that's the very first thing I need to do, is to give people what they can expect in today's market. And again, some things are good and some things are bad.
Jack, I'm going to be really rude and interrupt because I did not make one important point. Everybody is on mute. Feel free, and I strongly encourage you to send us questions and comments regarding the chat feature, and I'll forward those on to our speakers. Sorry.
Thank you so much. And let me just make one point. There is no silly question. I know it might sound silly to you, but it's not to us, because I would tell you the things that you have great importance in your life. And some things just have sentimental value that are priceless, and other things have market value. So the first thing I need to do is to tell you what your things are worth. And a way that you can do that, you can email us pictures here at our facility. You can call us and we can come out and visually take a look at those things. That's a couple ways that you can do it. And I always give out my cell phone number so people can text those pictures to me. Sometimes they're quite pleased what things are worth, and sometimes they're not. But the second thing, I just want to, as we march down through here and talk about value, I think it's important to us, and I've taken this obligation on to the trade that I am in, and my young son and some other folks are coming along here, is I think the second thing that's most important here today is to make sure that our clients have some protection. And you might ask yourself, what in the world are you talking about protection? I'm talking about, and let me just cite a few examples if I may. If you're selling different product classes, let me give you one. If you're selling guns, we're doing a tremendous gun liquidation here for a gentleman over in Cloverdale. But I was in Whiteland just the other day, and a lady said her father had passed away and they had 62 guns. And she said, I didn't know what to do with them. So I took them to the front porch, put them out on the front porch, and I called all his friends and they just took the guns. And I gasped for air and I thought, oh my gosh, you just don't understand the federal rules and regulations of doing something like that. If their gun gets back into a crime, they're going to come right back to that daughter. So if you have questions about guns or collectibles, it's important to contact somebody. Here's another example. We had a fellow that died up in Noblesville, and his son was out of Michigan. He had large exotic animals, and he had a lion and a leopard. And we contacted him and said, now, if you take those animals across state line into Michigan, that's a federal offense. You know, another thing that we can't sell is any kind of migrating bird, and you can't either. You can collect them and enjoy them. We had a collection of migrating ducks and geese, and the DNR said you have two elections. Either I arrest you or you dispose of them, you get them to an entity that has educational value. So these are the things that we're concerned about. Some of the liquor decanters that we all collected, there needs some special provisions in that. And if you have questions about that, I'd be more than happy to touch base with you on that. Some things that are very good in the marketplace, you may ask. I'm kind of skipping around here a little bit, but I want to try to create as many questions as we can as we travel through this particular hour together. You know, trains are good. Gold and silver is way up. These are good things. We're involved with a guy in Anderson, Indiana. We're on the 20th train auction out of that one house. And it's going to be $150,000, $160,000 worth of trains. So some of the things that we collected in our youth are very good. Now the folks today, my kids and grandkids, didn't collect the same thing I have. They don't know who Hopalong Cassidy is or the Lone Ranger. They don't understand all that. So those kind of collectibles are really kind of come down in value simply because we don't have the collectors. In the years we've been at, in the last 10 years, we've lost a lot of the serious collectors that were driving the price, and we don't have those folks anymore. Not to say that stuff doesn't have value, but it really does. So if you need those things appraised, you can give us a call. We're more than happy to come out and do that sort of thing, or just send us pictures. But that's pretty much so covers the appraisal aspect too. And again, the third thing we do is to sell and liquidate those things. And we have a system of doing that sort of thing in our fee structure. But the fourth thing, not only to liquidate them, we need to tell you what to throw away, because in this COVID situation, it's changed the whole complexion of our business. We can't sell mattress and box springs. A lot of the upholstery goods we have difficulty with because of the COVID concerns that we have. So a lot of that thing we need to be discarded, and we can help you with that also. The last thing I thought about when Mike came on this morning, I was talking to these group of folks here, is we try to steer people in giving assets away. I will tell you, in the last few years, I've seen more estates where people have left the entire estate. I'm talking real estate, cars, trucks, collectible, silver, gold, guns, the whole thing to one entity. Maybe it's their church, maybe it's to United Way, it could be any group of things, but that is really intriguing to me. And we have different product classes that you folks will have questions about. One of the things that I'm asked a great deal about is books. What in the world do I do with books? You know, if you look at the internet now, we're so digitally focused, and most of our books and our Kindles and all that sort of thing, we're reading off there. So we get into most of the estates that have a great deal of books. Some of the books will sell, but I picked up a little golden nugget in the last session that we did like this. And there's a group it's in Virginia Avenue. It's called, oh gosh.
I think it's Indie Reads.
Indie Reads, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I think it's Indie Reads.
And we're having folks to donate to that simply because they're teaching people to read, and they can distribute those books to the people who need it. So there's just different product classes like that you may have questions about. I'd be more than happy to tell you about that also. So maybe the next question might be, you know, what about estate sales? And do you do events at the home? And one of the things that our business has changed, our complete business model, we used to be live auction. We cleaned out 20 houses every week and brought those in here to auction with 5 auctioneers going on Wednesday. Now things have changed considerably, and we're doing even online. Let me back up here. Almost all of our business is online only, which you think, gosh, you know, a lot of the older folks don't have computers and they're not able to bid online. You'd be surprised. My mother-in-law is 93 years old and she's pretty savvy on a computer, but they're able to do that. And what it does on selling your assets, we have a broader base of buyers. And it's amazing to me that we're shipping all over the United States, Washington, Nebraska, Missouri, Florida. People buy assets here in Indianapolis and we ship them out. So, but again, to answer your question, are we doing everything here at our gallery? No, we're not. We did an auction yesterday. It was an online auction only at this lady's home. She's a wonderful lady, pharmacist, moving. And we went in and cataloged, photographed her assets and put them online. And people actually come to the home and picked up their things yesterday. So it works well there. By doing that, you save all the moving costs. We're not moving that big furniture and smalls like that. So,
Jack, I have a question about consignment shops. My wife and I dropped a couple things off at the consignment store yesterday. What's your thoughts about the role of consignment shops and how that might fit into the process of decluttering?
I think there's a time and place for that, especially with the clothing. We just don't have good luck with clothing. And we'll sell furs and leather coats and purses and gloves and things of that nature, which work very well. I would tell you, I'm still a believer in a competitive bidding platform, whether it be online or live, but I really think there is a place for consignment shops. And again, the clothing works the best. I was online the other day.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add another perspective about consignment shops. One thing to think about it too is, well, two things. One is convenience versus inconvenience. So with a consignment shop, there's an inconvenience and a cost associated with getting your furniture to the consignment store. So unless you have a family member that has a pickup truck, getting it, you might have to pay somebody to take it there, or you're going to inconvenience someone in the family to take your furniture there. And also from a pricing structure standpoint, consignment shops, and this kind of alludes to what Jack was talking about in terms of the competitive pricing. Auctions, if it's an item that people want, they're going to be bidding, and the price is going to continue to go up depending on the desire in the marketplace for that item. In a consignment setting, the consignment store is going to set a price, and then in 30 days, they're going to drop the price. And then in another 30 days, they're going to drop the price. And then in another, and they usually only give it 90 days. And then you either come pick it back up, or they are able to dispose of it as they will. So for an auction, your price is going to go up, up, up if it's in demand. For consignment stores, and they're trying to turn over, so they're going to come down, down, down to get it off of their floor space. So that's just another way to think about consignment versus auction.
That's a good point. Thank you for, and my contention is, if you put a price on something of $100, you'll never get 105 or 110. So have you really maintained or maximize the value of that particular asset? And we never know until we put it up for public bidding, and that's very true. And again, I think there's a place for consignment shops. I would tell you, for the most part, they will put a much higher price on the initial setting than probably we can get, but they're going to come down to what the market is worth. It's what a buyer and a seller, when they come together, is actually the true market price. So I hope that answers some questions. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in or get in the chat, and we'd love to answer your questions. We just don't want to tell you about what we do so much as we want to know what your concerns might happen to be here today.
John, I think, and it might even be a good time. I think we spoke a little bit at the first session about garage sales, and everybody talks about garage sales. Maybe reiterate some thoughts on garage sales.
Yeah, I had shared with those of you who might have heard in the last group, but just bear in mind with garage sales, they are a lot of work. You've got the time associated with just, pulling all your stuff out of the closets. That's going to take, a couple of probably a couple of 3 weeks, to be quite honest, of getting everything out that you want. You've got the time that you're going to have to price all those individual items. You've got to borrow tables and card tables and things like that to set your stuff out. And then you're going to need to spend, all day Thursday getting it set up, and then Friday and Saturday selling it. There's a lot of time and effort involved in having a yard sale. Shoppers at yard sales, they want to buy things on the cheap. So that is the kind of the mindset of the garage sale shopper, is they want to get it as cheap as they can. They're not really going to be invested in a particular piece the way in an auction. You're kind of going on and looking. I've been looking for a curio cabinet. I've been looking for something in my home for this, and they find it and then they want it, and then that's what drives the price up. But just yard sales are a lot of work, and they don't necessarily give you a big return on the effort.
So Jack, let's assume that I've gone through and I've sent off to you, the pictures, or you've come over and looked at the things that may have some value. That's probably, and there's going to be then quite a few items that just really aren't probably suitable for an auction. And then there's a lot of people that talk an awful lot about Facebook and, Marketplace, Craigslist. You can go on and on and on and on. Let's walk through those a little bit. Which ones do they have a place? I suspect they do. I know a lot of people use them. But where might they fit the best? Are there some that are better than others? Are there some pros and cons on some of those? Let's spend a little bit of time talking about that. And as we're doing it, I'll accumulate some of the questions that have come through.
Thank you. And I'm kind of watching the screen here, and we have questions about silver and glassware and where to dispose of things. But let me say something about our website. If you go to our website, which is christies.com, and you're interested in a specific item, you can put it in the search engine and see if we have any of that particular items, like yard rows, Hummels, any of those things, and any of the auctions, and you can go back and search and see what some of that stuff brought. So people like that feature. And we'll answer some of the questions in just a minute, but let me address the question that Mike has for us. I think I'm very concerned about some of the folks that are putting things on Facebook Marketplace. Not that it doesn't work, because I sold some stuff last year. We sold our trucks on Facebook, and it was just amazing. The people that they're involved in it, sometimes they don't show up. I'm concerned about the safety issue more than anything else about selling on Facebook. And there are Facebook Marketplace, excuse me. And there are other venues too. There's eBay, and oh my gosh, I can't even think of there. I know there's 5 or 6 that we recommend that we've had pretty good luck with, but yes. And my last name is Christy.
Let me just add to, again, kind of as you compare different options. From my perspective, Facebook Marketplace is helpful and a good source when you have 1 or 2 individual items that you're looking to sell. One dresser, or you've got a couch or a bedroom suit or something like that, kind of one thing. But if you're looking to, and the other thing to underscore what Jack said about safety, you're going to want to meet any buyer at a public location, a Lowe's or a Kroger's parking lot. So again, if you've only got 1 or 2 things and you can load it in your truck and get it to that place from a safety perspective, that's a good use for Facebook Marketplace. But if you've got a lot of things that you're looking to get your home decluttered, you are looking to downsize because you're moving, you're trying to help your elderly parents make their home safer, and you've got a lot of stuff, something like auction or donation where you're just kind of loading it up and getting it out is going to probably be a better avenue for you than trying to sell a whole bunch of individual items on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or whatever.
Good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Good point.
So Jackie, you want to start just going down the questions, one of which start with spelling your last name.
Okay, my last name is Christy, and our website is Christie's with an S.com. So we're not the Christie's of New York. We're the not so famous Christie's. They spell their name with an IE and ours is with a Y. So yes.
Okay. Well, I can see that you're looking at the questions. If you want to address the question, the one when we talk about silver, does that include things like sterling flatware and sterling hollowware, and what all's in that classification? And another person asked also, I think got on just a few minutes late. You talked about some product classes, and maybe if you reiterate some of that.
Sure. Let me start with this silver. You know, the misnomer of people think they have silver, and much of it is silver plate. To be sterling, you turn it on the backside, it's going to have to say sterling, or it have to be 92.5% silver, and it'll be marked 92.5. Now, again, that's not true 100% of the time, because German silver is 800, and a lot of the English silver is 800, and the Mexican silver is only 80% also. You get into some of the coins like silver dollar, and they're 90% silver. And I would tell you that's something too. We have sold a tremendous amount of coins, and we talk with some of the accountants and some of the folks that are looking at people's portfolio, and they're saying, maybe it's time to turn over these assets such as coins and gold and guns and things, and put it actually into a different money generating asset, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever it might happen to be. Yes, but on silver, silver's way up. I can look and see that what it is as of yesterday. The gold and silver market's kind of crazy. I remember not too far or too long ago, John, and you will agree with me too, that silver was $5 an ounce, and it's up another 25 cents today, and it's $26 an ounce. That's amazing. And gold has went crazy since since the war and everything, and the stocks, of course, are up and down. But if you have sterling silver, here's kind of a rule of thumb. Most of the folks have flatware, sterling flatware, and they say, well, what's this stuff worth real quick? Each piece in that setting is going to bring somewhere between $8 to $12 a piece. So you have a set of 96 in that place setting in the wooden case, you look at $960. Now the fancier the pattern, Kirk or a Repoussé pattern or something of that nature is going to bring more. It could bring 12 to whatever. You get a set of Tiffany and it could bring $50 or $60 a piece. So it just depends on what you have on that. Silver plate goods are not so good. They're $5 or $10 for serving pieces. The more ornate they are, but some of the Victorian pieces, the butter pieces, the pickle holders and things of that nature still demand a nice price, even though they are just silver plate.
So what about fine glassware in China? Some thoughts on that? There was a question that came up. A lot of people are going to have that, and that was the topic of conversation, I think, last week as well. Some thoughts on that?
Well, all I can tell you is what it brings in the marketplace, and it's just absolutely amazing to me. We all grew up with sets of china. However, we don't entertain like we used to, and the younger folks, they don't have time of the day for that sort of thing. And our sets of china run from about $25 to some are $300 or $400, unless you have some very nice Haviland drop rose, something of that nature that sells by itself. But a general set of china is under $100. Jonna, would you agree with me on that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And again, you've got to think about who is out there wanting to buy it and how many people are out there wanting to sell it. There's a whole generation of women that got china for their weddings, but my generation and younger generations, we just don't have china sets like that. We're not signing up for china when we get married, and we aren't entertaining in kind of that formal way anymore. It's just a different marketplace, and there's just not a lot of buyers for fine, fancy, pretty china sets.
That's very true. That's very true. Thank you. Good point. And people stopped me at the last one. They said, no, wait a minute. I got in contact with Replacements Ltd, and they want $100 a plate. And I went, oh my gosh, that's to replace one piece that maybe you have broken out of your set. But I would tell you something, they're buying those sets for a whole lot less money, $25 or $50. Yeah. So that's really not true to form on that particular thing. Here's another fine thing. I always get tickled when people bring it up to me and they said, look at this plate. It is signed on the back side. Well, many years ago, when we didn't have television so much and we didn't have DVDs and Netflix and all of that craziness there, they would have painting parties. In the Kokomo area, they had Kokomo girls up there, and they would buy these blanks that were stenciled at Charles Mayer or any kind of fine jewelry store or department store, and they would have painting parties on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, and they would paint them, and of course they would sign an artist on the back. So they're really not rare per se, but maybe your grandmother or mother painted those in those China painting parties, which I always get tickled about that when I see those. Yes.
So what about Beanie Babies? That came up as a question. We've talked Beanie Babies. I know in I think the earlier session that we had, we talked a little bit about Hummels. Maybe just an oversight, and I fear that there's going to be some reality setting in here, or you'll need to help us realize.
Yes, there was a Beanie Baby lady told me about the other day that she thought was worth just a tremendous amount of money, and I can't remember what was it, Princess Di. You might have to tell me, but it wasn't. It was $5. But I will tell you, the surge on Beanie Babies, if they're clean and in the plastic case, sometimes we'll get $5 or $10 or maybe even $20 a piece for them. We see some of the churches that are buying it. There is a Samaritan's Purse that we try to buy them throughout the year and give them to that so they can stuff them in the boxes at the Christmas time and send them over there. Of course, we have to take the tags off and all that sort of thing. But I will tell you, let me address the Beanie Babies and some of the collectible items at this time, which I'm going to step on some toes. I know Beanie Babies are just a couple dollars, maybe $5 a piece. Collector plates. I got a call from a very dear friend that we go to church with, and he said, my mom passed away last week, and he said, she has this most amazing group of collector plates. And some of them are Norman Rockwell. Oh my goodness, can you believe she's got those? And I said, well, they might be somewhere between $3 to $10 a piece. And when mom paid these in 3 easy payments in 1995, they just won't bring that money back. Many of the collector plates are $3 to $5. And I would tell you some of the coins, even the guys that are buying mint sets and proof sets, you got to be kind of careful of those. They were bought for investment purposes, and they have not went up unless they have silver in them. But silver coins are 1964 and older or earlier, then they have some value on that. A typical silver coin in 1964 or earlier, like a $50, today is worth $9 for $0.50. A dime is worth about $1.40 or something of that nature. So a lot of those collectibles, like Hummels, $40 Hummel, a $400 Hummel is probably $40. And that's really stepping on people's toes. Yadros have kept their value more so than the Hummels. I will tell you that Yadros, Royal Dalton has slipped considerably with the Toby mugs. So, now, some of the sets of the Royal Dalton China still are doing very well. And that's the 100 to 250 on the China cabinet, but it has to, China setting has to be the right ones, of course.
So Jack and John, at the last session, we had some conversation about classic toys, and we had a really good discussion about that. And another question has come up about toys from the 70s and the 90s, and I'll add to it, classic toys. We had quite a discussion about those, and maybe we'll spend a few seconds with that if we can.
Sure. John, you want to go ahead or shall I? Okay. We just did the other day, and each age group has their different collectibles. Just keep that in mind. We have, the other day, a fellow brought in, he was with IPS, Indianapolis Public Schools, and he brought in all of his Hot Wheels, and they were called red lines. So they have a red line around the wheel. And some of those were anywhere from $50 to $300 to $400 for just a very small Hot Wheel red line car. So again, that was his class of collectibles. Again, I alluded to some of the Hopalong Cassidy and Lone Ranger and things like that. They've slipped just a little bit. And there's been a million NASCAR and diecast, just tons of them. Some of them that are signed or in a specific scale will still do very well also. But some of the true marks, chin, wind up toys are still doing pretty well. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, very good, very good. A couple things that hit home for me. A couple questions have come in and have become very relevant, and they're very relevant to me as well. What about old records and then stamp collections? Oh my gosh, I have a big stamp collection. I'm sure my kids would like for me to drop that off in the middle of the night on their porch. Maybe I should try to sell it. So records and stamp collections. Great question. Thank you.
Well, let me address the vinyl, which is the 33 1/3. That has really caught on. We sold a skid of them the other day for $1,300 and another skid behind it for $1,200, and we're selling them by the box. So the LPs and vinyl, they're really on the comeback. So they're doing pretty well. They have to be the right ones though. We sold an Elvis collection the other day, and I don't know how many folks remember Elvis, but he's kind of slipped a little bit, and they only brought not what I thought they should. Let me address the stamp thing. There used to be a stamp store on Massachusetts Avenue. I can't recall the name of it, but they went out of business. And I would tell you, and I have a very large stamp collection here that I need to address. And I told him it'd probably bring in about $1,000. And he said, I don't think that's enough. And I said, well, I'm telling you what the market's worth. Some of those albums, you can figure them about $25 to $50 an album. Again, it just depends on what you have. The stamp collectors that went away, unfortunately. And sometimes we don't even get the postage cost on there if we sell them. So I tell them, if you don't have a sentimental value to it, go ahead and use them, which is really unfortunate. John, would you agree?
Yeah, that one hits home. That's bad news for me, but thanks for the reality check. Yes, John.
There is a Scots guide, and we use that for many years. But I will tell you, that is someone's opinion. Like all of the reference books that we look at, all the antique guides, price guides, those are only a guide to what someone's opinion might be. Some of those stamps in the Scots guide are off the charts, and they would never bring that to market. But that's a guide that many of them use.
How about Department 56 houses?
Well, there were a few that were worth a considerable amount of money, but we sell a great amount of them. They're $5, $10, some of them $25 a piece. There was a cathedral, I think it was the St. Michael's Cathedral, that was so very expensive there when they first come out, didn't have too many of them. And we were able to get a great deal. I remember the first Cabbage Patch that we came with. The first one I put at auction brought $800 because everybody had to have them at Christmas time, and there was none to be found. You know, and here's another area too that will really surprise you, and that is comic books. Comic books, if you have the right one and they're low in serial number, they're 10 cents or less, they will surprise you. And we all hear about the Superman #1 that brings, you know, $1 zillion. But there still are some. We sold a lady that had about 8,500 comic books last year. And she was very, and she had a lot of modern ones. I think the collection brought about $30,000. But there were some of them that would bring somewhere between $500 to $1,000 per comic book issue. So again, it just depends on what you have.
You know, it's another one that is very relevant to me as well. That question came across is silver certificates. The dollar bills, is there much of a premium there? Or what's the market like for those?
Silver certificates, they do have greater value than the face value, which is $1.
Sure.
I would tell you, anything that we touch and anything that we handle is based on condition. If it's used and it's worn or torn, it's not going to bring as much. But I tell you, we call them, there's a very large bill, and it's called we call it a saddleback. And it's a very large dollar. It's almost the size of, much greater than your iPhone. And they do pretty darn well. They'll bring over $100 a piece. And Here's something about paper money, and we use a price guide. It depends on whose signature on that paper money. And we had a very large collection of paper money. And you have a secretary and you have 2 signatures on most all of the paper money. And it depends on whose signatures are on those paper bills, whether they're worth more money or not. My father, many years ago, back in 1976, I think, he thought Joe Barr dollars were going to be worth so much money, and he collected a whole bunch of those, and they're not. They're just face value. $2 bills, anything that a $2 or $5 bill with a red seal on it usually has a great deal more money worth in today's market.
Okay, there's an aha. Look for the red seal.
Right. And some of the low serial numbers, consecutive numbers. We just sold a $500 bill, which they quit making in 1934. And I think it brought $900. If you get a $1,000 bill, they could bring, and they were last made in 1934. They're $2,000, $2,500. They really are in demand.
You know, an interesting question came through, Jack, and I don't know if you're able to read that, but it's kind of really walking through the steps of having an auction or an estate sale. You know, how do you pick a company? I'm sure there's, you know, there are a number of them out there. You know, what's kind of the normal process? You know, it sounds like there's some combination of people coming out and just doing an appraisal, or some cases it's better off just to send you some pictures. I know you covered that a bit, but we had a follow-up question, and maybe we could cover that. It is an interesting question.
That it is. If I was in the market and my parents or brother or sister, whomever might have passed away, the interview process would be to actually meet that individual, have them come out, look at this particular estate, or if you're downsizing too. And I don't mean to put it in a class that somebody's always passing away. That's who we normally deal with, and of course for a lot of downsizing too. I would, you know, interview those folks, check out their credentials. Anytime that we go walk into a downsizing situation, or any client that we work with, we always give them our references. We encourage them to go to our website. We used to encourage them to come to our physical location for a Wednesday night or Wednesday day auction so they could see us in our operation and all, but we don't have that any longer. But just to ask the right questions. When am I going to get paid? What are my commissions? What are my fees? Are there any hidden fees that I don't know about? And we give them a 2-part contract, and they can leave that with them, and they can read through all of the particulars that we have addressed. And to be very honest with you, on the back of our contract, there's some situations we've got in with clients that we just want to make sure that they know that we have integrity. There's going to be a complete accounting for all of the goods that we have with them, and they're going to get paid on a quick manner within 30 days and that's another question. What does the law say? The law says that you must be paid 30 days after the auction occurs. So that's important too.
Thank you. So perhaps this is a good time to pivot for just a second. We've talked a lot about trying to maximize value and selling things and that sort of thing. We're all going to have quite a bit that's left that we're just really not going to be able to sell. And perhaps we talk a little bit about donating. There are places you can just go, drop things off. There are probably places where you could donate some things and you'll really serve a purpose fairly directly, and you'll feel pretty good about it. It'll be very, very fulfilling to you. So Jack or John, if maybe we talk a little bit about, for those things that we're not able to really sell, donating, thoughts on, and some best practices and advice and tips on donating.
Johnny, you want to go ahead? I've done most of the talking.
Okay. Yeah, most people, when you talk about donating, the first thing that comes to mind is, Goodwill. And Goodwill is great for convenience because there's one on every corner, and you just drive up, they'll help you unload it, and you're off and going. And it's a great service, particularly for clothes. They'll take anything, but I particularly tell people to think about Goodwill for clothes, because you're just selling clothes just isn't gonna, there's really not gonna be much money there. But I wanted to share with you just, Some other organizations, and this is just as an example, because there's many throughout the Indianapolis area that I'm not mentioning that have very good missions, and you just start talking to people and you'll learn about some other organizations. But this is to give you an idea beyond goodwill of what's available. So one organization that I really like is it's a resale store up on 86th Street. It's called Thrifty Threads. What I like about Thrifty Threads, they sell to the public, but they are associated with the Julian Center. The Julian Center is a nonprofit that supports women who are escaping domestic violence. So the proceeds from the Julian Center go to, or from Thrifty Threads on 86th Street, go to the Julian Center. Another thing that I like about that organization is the women who are being housed or helped by the Julian Center get vouchers, and they can go and shop at Thrifty Threads at no cost. So you're helping the Julian Center and these women in two different ways. And particularly when I'm working with women clients who have clothes and shoes and purses, I love to recommend Thrifty Threads, like women helping women. But they also take household goods and furniture and things like that. There's another organization up in Fishers called the Mustard Seed. What I like about their mission is they work with social services all around Indiana who are directly working with individuals who are coming out of a life crisis, whether they're overcoming drugs or addiction, or they've had a fire or some kind of mental illness, and they've been working through these social services, and these individuals are now ready to get back on their feet or get an apartment for the first time. And what the Mustard Seed does, and this frames what they are able to accept, is they help these individuals basically at no cost get the furnishings for an apartment. So, but all they accept for donations are, they do accept clean mattresses, which is important to know because not many organizations accept that. They will accept clean mattresses, queen size or smaller. They will accept bedroom furniture, kitchen tables, couches or recliners, but they don't accept like big old honking entertainment centers or big old armoires or big old metal desks. You got to think in the mindset of, if I were homeless and I was getting an apartment for the first time to get on my feet, what's the furniture I would need? What are the small kitchen appliances I would need? There's another organization over in the Carmel area called Merciful Help. It's associated with the Catholic Church there up at Oak Ridge. What is the name? Oak Ridge and 146th Street.
That's probably Our Lady of Mount Carmel, I think it would be.
Yes, that organization is called Merciful Help. Similar to Mustard Seed, they help people who are coming out of crisis. And again, they only accept things that someone would need. So they don't accept home decorations, Christmas decorations, things like that. What I really like about that organization is, in order to serve the people in the broadest, to, I guess, make their resources go as far as possible, they actually walk through with a family and help them pick out what they need. So for example, if it's a family of 5, they're allowed to get 5 plates, 5 glasses, 5 cups. So they kind of limit it to the size of the family. Again, you've got to think in the terms of, what do I need? So those are some organizations that just come to mind to give you an example of organizations that have very specific needs and focuses and missions. There's many throughout the Indianapolis area, but it kind of opens it up broader than, oh, well, if I'm going to donate, I just have to donate to Goodwill. There are many organizations beyond Goodwill that I think as individuals, we would all feel very good about passing along our items that we don't need anymore, that are still, I mentioned this in the last group, and I'll remind you again, you know, these charities, they don't want your trash. They don't want your dirty stuff that needs to be thrown away. If you're not comfortable walking to your neighbor's house and say, hi, I was going to give this away, would you like to have it? That's how you need to think about it. If you would be too embarrassed to give it to a neighbor, you probably just need to discard it.
I'm going to interject for a second here. This is a good time for the audience. If you have a favorite charity, the one, you know, something that fits some of the criteria and some of the thought process that Jonna had, put them in the chat feature for everybody to see. I think that'd be very, very much appreciated. There's really a good lesson there, John, and that is, you know, you really can do a lot, you know, to really help. You know, do some homework, and you might be able to find something that really is important. Christy Tidwell, I know you're on. You also have an organization that is very involved with shoes, and where you can actually volunteer and help sort shoes. If you want to put that in the chat feature as well. A question that has come up, and I think there's been a couple answers. I really am enjoying the conversation amongst everybody. Organizations that help refugees. Unfortunately, getting to be a bigger and bigger and relevant thing to us. Any thoughts or ideas on organizations where one can make a donation to help refugees?
I saw some in the chat. There are a few recommendations and some ideas. I think that's really good. You know, and I think that we have an obligation to help the refugees, but there are some local folks too. St. Vincent de Paul, I saw that on the screen. And some of us in our industry have favorites or charities of choice that we use. We use a fellow that was City View Church here in downtown Indianapolis that has a farm now in North Vernon. And he's taking a lot of the inner city kids down there and helping them. So that's called Blue Tassel Farms. And they do a lot of wonderful work as far as some of the women have went through abuse and into some of the shelters also. So there are some charities of choice that we have too, along with John and some of the other folks. Yes.
Well, good discussion. I see St. Vincent de Paul. We mentioned there's one, you know, in Indianapolis. There's also, I think it's St. Vincent de Paul up in Noblesville that has a thrift shop and really funds itself through the thrift shop. And that's another one. So there's Exodus Refugees. That I appreciate somebody, you know, putting that up there. Maybe we spend just a few seconds. So now we've gone the process and we've made, hopefully we've been able to make gazillions of dollars through the auctioning process and working with Jack or somebody that's in that business. And we've also done a good job of donating our things that we've got them to a really good charity that we feel strongly about and we feel good about it. But there's probably going to be some things left that just are going to have to be pitched. Jonna, maybe if you could help us a little bit about the process of, we got this stuff that we just can't do anything with. I guess I'll call it junk, but what do we do there? What do we do now?
Yeah. So we have gentlemen that we work with that partner with. We often work with clients who are downsizing and moving out. And sometimes they do have a lot of things after you've gone through all the phases of, you know, getting rid of stuff. I'm helping a lady right now, and we're going to go back on Tuesday and just pick up everything that's left in the garage and in the basement, and it just needs to be thrown away. She's gone through all the phases of getting rid of stuff. So Harmony can help with things like that. There are, bigger businesses like Junk King, even 2 Men in a Truck now offers junk removal. Those are probably going to be a little more premium priced as far as what they're able to do, just because they're bigger businesses with a lot more overhead. Yeah, so, Jack, I think maybe offers that service too. I'll defer to what his services are.
We work with Fire Dogs. There was a couple other that we work with, but they have done a really very fine job, and they can take on a pretty sizable job. Something too I'd like to offer too on our website, and I'm going to hold this up. I should have had a slide, and it says, "How does Christie's work?" You probably can't see it, sorry, but it addresses all the things that we cannot sell. And you would be surprised at some of the things, such like pianos, and people gasp when they say, "I can't take your piano." There's just no market for a spinet piano any longer. Upright piano is even harder to place, and organs are hard to place. But there is a whole list of things that we struggle with getting any monies whatsoever out. And we give this list to people and say, if you have any of those things, they're probably going to have to be disposed of. And getting rid of some of those large items. And I would tell you something too, entertainment centers and armoires are very, very difficult to repurpose or get back into any kind of monies whatsoever. Most of the time we'll have to dispose of those items. But there is a list there.
Yeah, Jack, you mentioned pianos, and I'm looking at a piano in my den as we speak, and it's going to be a very, very sad moment when the reality hits, as you just described it. And that goes back, John, to your session, your first decluttering session. Is this can be hard, and it can be a little sad, but there is a reality to it. So I appreciate. Yes, John.
And I will just to kind of underscore the reality of with pianos. I'll mention too. Every senior community, every church, every boys and girls organization already has pianos. So it's very, very hard to even find a place to donate a piano. They're very hard to sell because one, the buyer has to be able to come and get it, and pianos are hard to move. And kids these days are, playing music on the computer and things like that. So I just had a client last week, and we just had to break it down and throw it away. It was really old and out of tune and really couldn't even be tuned. So that made it a little bit easier, but it is very hard to the grandeur and beauty of pianos. It's kind of like cutting down a tree. It just kind of hurts your heart, but there's just not a market for them even to donate.
If you do have a Steinway, we were able to sell a Steinway the other day for about $7,000, I believe it was. But if you have a very fine piano and it's a Steinway, yes, there is a market for that. But I will tell you, I have people that are so upset with me because they have a baby grand and it's in a mahogany cabinet, and it's just, there's no value in it. Maybe you can get $50 or $100 for it the most. And that is very upsetting to them. But John is right. It's really hard to replace or to place. And most churches and organizations have one. It's just very difficult to place those.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe moderator's prerogative here, and maybe hopefully on a little bit of a light note. What about my collection of about 150 pint logo, pint glasses that I've collected with from different microbreweries around the country? Will I be able to make a big trip with my proceeds from these beer glasses?
Oh, I'm so sorry. No. But you know what? But take them and enjoy them. That is so important that you do enjoy them. And when you want to sell that collection, I'm sure some of your children will take some, and
and this is something that I think I had alluded to last week, but just before the collections that you do have and that are sentimental, at the point when you are either trying to clear out your home if they're maybe still in boxes or whatever, or you're just trying to get rid of a bookcase that they might be stored on. And then I think I mentioned this about a set of china that you might have from your mother or your grandmother. But same thing with your glasses. Might select a handful of teacups. Teacups are a big collector thing. Select your favorite ones, whether that might be 5 or 10 or whatever, and have those displayed in a beautiful place in your home, or have them displayed, and then let go of the others. It will be a reminder of your collection. It's just not the mass quantity. Another thing that I've suggestion is, take pictures of I did this with my stuff. I had to go through, I had a bunch of stuff at my dad's house that I was getting rid of from my childhood and from my high school accomplishments. And I took pictures of everything, and I've got it on a CD now, and I can kind of flip through and remind myself of my little turtle collection and my little precious moments collections. They're on a picture, I can still see them, but it made it easier for me to get rid of the actual stuff. So those are a couple of ideas.
Yeah, John, thank you. And that was probably one of the biggest lessons I think I received from the first session, is that I don't need to have all of those to remember a father or grandfather or grandmother. Just a couple of those items will suffice, and go from there. So we have about 3 minutes left. Jack, any final thoughts, words, advice, anything for the audience? We've just had great conversation with the audience. I so appreciate your doing what you've done with us today, but any final thoughts?
Yeah, I do. And forgive me for when we talked about protection, I think it's important that as a professional that you have some of your things looked at. We had coins the other day that were from the China, and they were lead instead of silver. Some of the art, we've run into art forgeries. So it's just really important that you have a professional look at your collection even before you buy, or maybe if you're getting ready to liquidate, to make sure that it's authentic. We were working with Nancy Noel's estate. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that you just need to look at. Just take care, call a professional. And there are some other classes that are very good. If you have any Petroliana, like gasoline signs or oil signs or any kind of advertising, that stuff went through the roof also. So there's just many different classes that are good in your collecting if you choose to do so.
Okay, and one of the lessons that you gave us at the very beginning is, if you do have guns, consider your personal protection and what how you sell those or give them away, and that sort of thing. So, Jack, thank you so much. John, any further thoughts or tips, advice for us?
Get started. Mike, they had asked about my cell phone number. May I give that out?
Sure.
It's 317-627-9356. Even after this session's over, if you want to text me, I'll be more than happy to look at it. Send me some pictures. I'll refer you to Jana or whatever needs to be done.
Okay, there have been a number of questions regarding links to the webcast, and my understanding, and John, you could sure correct me if I'm not correct here. But my understanding is what will happen for everyone that are on these calls and have signed up, you will be receiving links to both of the decluttering sessions, and I would assume so. Well, I think that's the answer. John, is that correct?
Correct, Mike. What we will do is next week, once we get all the videos processed through marketing, we'll go ahead and send a link to both of these sessions, since it was kind of a part 1 and a part 2, along with other relevant information such as contact information, presentations, and everything there.
Okay, very good. Well, I think that gets us to the end of the session. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, thank you very much to the speakers, and thanks to the audience for all the questions. And I think we're adjourned to our speakers.